Welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be going over all the day's big movie news and going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. And the first bit of news I want to talk about today is Paramount and Nickelodeon have actually gone out and announced a sequel to their just recent smash hit, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I say smash hit because Paramount was predicting anywhere between 45 and 50, actually, I don't even think it was that high. I think it was between 38 and $45 million for their opening weekend. I think that was what the prediction was. And they opened between 60 and 65. So that's a big bonus for the people at Paramount. It hit better than they thought it was going to. The movie, when I say to my review that I liked the movie, I was completely honest about that. And one of the things that I really did like about it, and by means that I like, I mean I enjoyed it. I can understand that it is not a good film. I am not calling it a good film. I am calling it an enjoyable, fun, entertaining film. Because that's all it needed to do. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was never going to be a property that any studio executive out there believed could be the next big, hard-hitting character study. There was no way that that was ever going to happen. It was about mutated turtles that acted like teenagers, lived in the sewers, ate pizza, studied ninjutsu, and fought a group of bad guys called the Foot Clan. I mean, there was no way that this should ever have been taken seriously. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be for kids. And this movie was meant for kids. It was made for kids. And the demographic between the ages of, like, I think it was 6 and 13 or 6 and 14 loved the movie. And I think anybody who realistically loved the Ninja Turtles for what they originally were, in terms of their spirit, in terms of their fun, in terms of their camaraderie between one another. That's what I think they did capture in this film. They didn't need to go anything further. The things that they missed out on in the film were the fact that the Ninja Turtles were not the main characters, which is something that they should hopefully rectify in the new film. Second off, Shredder was not that well developed of a character. He was intimidating, yes, but he was not very well developed. We didn't get a lot of information on him. It was more about just the visuals, which is areas that I do believe could have used improvement, that they could have used help. But with all of this, Paramount and Nickelodeon have gone ahead and announced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 for June 3rd. Yes, June 3rd, 2016. So we have less than 2 years before we get the next installment. Now, about 8 months ago or 10 months ago, there was a lot of talk about how 2015 was going to be the year to end all movies because of the powerhouse productions that were going to be coming out in that year. We had the three main titles were originally Avengers 2, Batman v Superman, and Star Wars Episode 7. Batman v Superman has now moved to 2016, but just looking at the slate of films that we have coming out in 2016, 2017, those are becoming even bigger years than what we originally thought 2015 could become. Other films in 2015 are the new Terminator film, we have Jurassic World. Originally, there was supposed to be Pirates of the Caribbean 5 was supposed to be delayed or released then. It was then delayed to 2016, now to 2017. Other productions such as Assassin's Creed is still on track for 2015, although that may move. We have Fantastic Four reboot coming out in 2015. Like, it's a big year. But the years after that are getting even bigger and bigger. But the thing that I find is interesting is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, opening up on June 3rd, will be opening in between two big potential properties. The first one that opens up a week before that is X-Men Apocalypse, riding high off of X-Men Days to Future Past, which was by far the best X-Men movie and one of the best comic book movies we've ever got. That movie was just how it handled the characters, how it developed them, how it utilized them. Every character got a moment to shine. Even though some of them you didn't even get more than 5 words out of them, they still got their moments to shine. We still got to see what those characters were supposed to do. They weren't just there to be like, oh, hey, there's that guy. No. They actually got their moments to shine. They were there to help the script. The script was not there to just include them, which is what I think X-Men Apocalypse it really has going for it. And Ninja Turtles 2 opening a week after that is very similar demographic. You're going to get a lot of kids. Well, I mean, Apocalypse is probably going to be geared more towards teenagers, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, if it's done right, or at least done a little bit better than this one, but still maintaining the fun aspect of this movie, still maintaining that humor level, which I guarantee it will, 'cause it's got the same writers. it has Uncharted, the film adaptation of the video game series Uncharted, opening up a week later. Now, that's just a penciled-in date. The movie is on track, hopefully, to be released on that date, but, I mean, Assassin's Creed pegged out August 7th, 2015, a long time ago, and we're now just starting to get little tidbits on that movie. And that movie's going to be a big production. They're going to need more than a year to do that movie. And they have just a year, just under a year now, like just under a year to have that movie finished. But we do know that all the originals from this movie will be back. Splinter, the Ninja Turtles, April O'Neil, Vernon, her cameraman, they will all be back, but they will be joined by Casey Jones, which I'm excited about. A lot of people thought that Will Arnett was cast as Casey Jones, but I mean, he doesn't fit the character at all, so I knew that wasn't true. But we're also going to be getting Bebop and Rocksteady, who are basically the giant pig, or the giant warthog, I should say, and the giant rhino. So we are going to be getting those guys. We still don't know who the big bad is going to be, whether or not Shredder's going to come back, or if they are just going to finalize his storyline. I hope they don't. He's kind of like the Joker of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you could call him that. He is their big bad. So I don't know if he's going to be returning or not. But everybody, the cast, the producers, the writers, they're all coming back. The only one who's still unsure is director Jonathan Liebsman. We still don't know if he's going to be coming back yet, but after the success this movie's had, he might want to come back, depending on if he has any other projects. But, yeah, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sequel coming out on June 3rd, 2016. Let me know in the comments section what you thought of the movie, whether or not you thought it was decent. If you saw the redeeming factors of the film that kind of overshadowed things that were wrong with it, which is how I felt. I felt that a lot of the problems with the movie didn't affect me as much because the other things I enjoyed so much more. But let me know in the comment section what you guys think. And when we get more information about this, I will definitely update you guys on here. All right, and our second topic that we have to talk about today is kind of touching on what I just mentioned in the first one, dealing with Assassin's Creed. So there have been a lot of rumors coming around with the Assassin's Creed film as of late. One of the big ones was that, and it kind of made me chuckle when I read this, that Michael Fassbender had left the production. He was no longer the producer or the star of the movie because of how much the script had deviated from the original source material. And the funny thing about that is that Michael Fassbender admitted in an interview like a year ago or maybe 8 months ago, he's never read, he's never played Assassin's Creed. He doesn't play video games. What attracted him to the project was the core concept of using genetic memory to be able to tap into someone's ancestors and be able to try to figure out exactly what happened in a certain period of time and maybe prevent certain events from happening, or maybe making sure that they happen. And I thought that was actually a very, very cool concept when the original game came out. And now we have so many sequels, and it's now become an annual event where we get an Assassin's Creed game. Well, Michael Fassbender has done an interview to clear a lot of those things up, and also has revealed a couple more bits of information about the production. So he says he first off, he started off by saying, "I love these rumors. They're great." You know, I mean, most of the time all they do is they just get publicity on the project, but he goes, "No, we're moving full steam ahead." One of the nice things that I thought about with this too, it's not going to be a direct adaptation of the first game. It's going to be taking the mythology set up and utilizing that and creating a feature film. They are approaching this as a feature film, not adapting a video game. They're taking those core concepts and then they're making their own product out of it, which I think is the perfect way to go in order to be able to balance both of those sides. As well, Assassin's Creed automatically is a very cinematic based game anyway. So outside of just taking the cutscenes and then filming them in live action, people are going to be mad no matter which way you shake the stick. So doing it this way at least makes sure that they are targeting the absolute best product that they can. And so a little bit of story details have actually emerged from this. Now, whether or not they are true is still yet to be discovered, but they sound very plausible. And so Fassbender, who, if you don't know who I'm talking about, Michael Fassbender, he was Magneto in the most recent X-Men films, playing the younger Magneto. He was also in Prometheus. He's been in several films. Very, very talented actor. So he will star as both Michael Lynch, who is a death row inmate who is used as a pawn between the assassins and their enemies, the Templars. And he will also play the assassin known as Angular de Aragorobo during the Spanish Inquisition. So we're actually, even in the movies, we're getting a new setting. They haven't done the Spanish Inquisition yet in the games. They've done the Roman Empire. They've done the American Revolution. They've done pirates over the seas during the 1700s, basically around the same time Pirates of the Caribbean was set. They've done what was the first game? Oh, damn. I can't even remember where the first setting was, but they've never done the Spanish Inquisition yet, so it's very fresh territory for them to approach this, which I think is the right way to go. Overall, and also the Animus will be included. So one of the main theories going into the film was that they were probably going to excise the Animus aspect, and the movie was just going to be basically told through someone reading like a journal that they had found and reading through the excerpts in there, and then it would be all told through flashbacks. That was one of the main rumors going around about this film, and I'm glad that they are sticking with the mythology of the game, that there's an ancient piece of technology which they are able to utilize, which takes the host, or in this case it's going to be Michael Lynch, who's normally Desmond in the games, and they're going to be tapping into his genetic memories, DNA memory, and going back to one of his ancestors that had a crucial part in the Spanish Inquisition. So overall, this is sounding like the type of video game movie that we've been waiting for. A lot of people had high hopes for Prince of Persia, and again, even though that movie did have its entertaining moments, it still felt flat. But with the talent and everything that's going behind this, and Justin Kurzel, who is directing it, his last movie that he directed hasn't even come out yet, is a new version of Macbeth, starring Michael Fassbender. That's one of the reasons why he was able to come on board. But someone who is able to go and tackle Shakespeare, and then wants to go and do a video game adaptation. You know this guy has a passion for this. Why else would he do it? Why else would the studio allow him to come on and handle this? Because this is one of those things like what Marvel did back in 2008. Ubisoft, who is the game creator, big game producer, they have now created their own movie division. And they're doing Assassin's Creed is their first one, and I believe it's Splinter Cell is their second one. So they are working on 2 films based on their own video games. So it's a very in-house production, very similar to what we got from Marvel. And there is a chance that we could strike the same level of success that Marvel did in terms of being able to balance what the game is about, what the fundamentally core aspects of that game are about, and translating them into a feature film and doing it right. And I think they have a chance of doing that. My only concern with it is I don't think they're going to be holding to that August 7th, 2015 release date unless they start production within the next month. That's the only time that they can. And this is the type of movie I hope does a lot of practical sets. This movie, the video games are fundamentally an open world concept, so you can travel anywhere in the city. So being able to interact with these landscapes and things like that in the real world, I think would very much benefit these movies, and I hope they go that route. But that again means that they're going to need a lot of more pre-production time, because they're going to need to build them. They're not just going to go and do what Star Wars episodes 1 through 3 did and just set up green screen and shoot there. So, I mean, there's still a lot left to be said about this project, whether or not it's going to meet its production date, whether or not we're going to get more casting announcements soon. I hope we do, because if they're going to try to meet this date, which is a year away, it's going to be tough. But when we get more information about Assassin's Creed, which I'm very much excited about, I really do hope that this film is the one that turns the table. This and Warcraft and Splinter Cell, I think, are the 3 films that will really set these video game adaptations apart. Because we've got Doug Liman doing Splinter Cell, we've got Justin Kurzel doing Assassin's Creed, we have Duncan Jones doing Warcraft. These are very talented directors. And I think we are at the beginning, the very beginning of a new age of films where we get these very good, highly in-demand video game adaptations that are worthy of being adapted. So when we get more information about this, I will definitely update you guys on here. And our next topic that we have to talk about is featuring the one and only Groot himself, Vin Diesel. So Vin Diesel always loves to interact with his fans, however many ways he can. He just absolutely loves it. He praises everybody for being at the position that he's in, because it's ultimately every actor's success is deemed upon by the fans. If people go and see them, then they're going to be revered as larger stars. And so he always puts stuff on his Facebook page. Sometimes it's just teases, sometimes just playing around, sometimes actually a way to slyly announce something without actually announcing it. Like, remember back, I think it was in August of last year, I think it was about a year ago now, maybe in September, when he changed his Facebook profile photo to Groot. And then it was immediately changed, maybe within 20 minutes or so. And that was his sly way of saying, hey guys, this is who I'm playing next. Well, it looks like he may have done that again, because we knew when the whole Groot talk was happening, we knew for sure that he was Groot, and then they took 4.5 months for them to actually announce that he was Groot in the film. We knew that he had been approaching them about another project altogether, and that this was just a way for them to kind of work with him right now while they're developing their new IP or intellectual property. Well, a lot of people have been speculating what that could be, whether or not it's going to be a fresh new comic book, whether or not it's going to be part of an Avengers film, or what's going to happen. It looks like Diesel has kind of lifted the veil a little bit as to what his role could potentially be. And this is the quote that he put on his Facebook page. He goes, I get the strange, or it was Vin and Marvel, you guys did it. And that was meant to be, a lot of people have said he's talking about himself in the third person. No, that was meant to be a from the fans quote, because I believe that he's been told that. I mean, I know that a lot of people have said that, they did it. They managed to take an unknown property, one that was a very big risk, and make it a huge success. And Guardians of the Galaxy is by far, I've already seen it 3 times. It is by far one of my favorite Marvel movies in terms of its fun. I do think Captain America: Winter Soldier is a better film. I do think it has a better story to it. I think this not even necessarily the supporting characters; those aspects work really well. But I just think the storyline in general on Captain America was a little bit better than Guardians. But they're both unbelievably good films. And so yeah, he was basically saying, Vin and Marvel, you guys did it. And below that, in his quotes, he goes, I get the strange feeling that Marvel thinks I'm inhuman. And inhuman was capitalized. And then he goes, ... haha. That, and a lot of people are saying, well, that's him saying that he's in talks right now to be in the Inhumans movie, which Kevin Feige has talked about for a long time. Saying that this is a property that they do want to develop and that they are developing, just don't really have a placeholder yet for it, at least publicly announced. Well, a little bit of backstory on the Inhumans. Essentially, the Cliff Notes version of the Inhumans they are a comic book property still owned by Marvel that is very similar in powers and ensemble to the X-Men. So it's a way for Marvel to still be able to make their own kind of X-Men film without having to get the rights back from Fox. And it's a very cool concept. It's another team concept, which I think they're going to be putting into the fast track, especially after the results of Guardians. Because Guardians was an unknown property, but just how fun it was, and they didn't need to do an origin story for any of the characters, just sprinkle little bits of information of them throughout the film. And I think they can do the same thing with an Inhumans movie. So speculation has Vin Diesel potentially playing Black Bolt. And Black Bolt is a character that has superhuman strength. He has the ability of flight. He has the ability of molecular manipulation, so whether or not he can make himself go, not necessarily go small or go big, but he can make himself, very similar to Vision, he can make himself stronger and more dense without having to actually grow in size. Like he can just basically thaw or whatever the case may be and become very, very, very strong. But his final power that is the most interesting if Vin Diesel signs on is a destructive hypersonic voice, which means he doesn't talk unless he wants you dead. So if he even whispers, like the description is, a whisper could knock over a battleship. Like it would cause a wave enough to knock it over. Maybe it would still be up and running. Actually talking would be enough to level several city blocks, and him yelling would be enough to destroy a planet. Like that's how powerful his voice is. So to me, the interesting thing is if he does sign on to this, his first role with Marvel will be a voice-only role, voicing the character of Groot. The next role will be a complete physical embodiment of Vin Diesel, sans his voice. He won't be able to talk unless it's during battle and he actually wants to fight somebody and destroy them without using any of his other powers. And that to me is, I think that's really interesting, and that's a very big challenge for someone like Vin Diesel, because I think that a lot of people are going to associate him with being the lead character, and if the lead character in the movie doesn't speak, well, that's going to be unique. That's going to be different and weird and strange, and I love, again, this is speculation, this is not confirmed, but if this does end up happening, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, then we have Ant-Man, then we have Doctor Strange, then we have Inhumans. This is why the superhero genre is not likely to die for a while, because we're not getting the same movies. We're not getting the same characters anymore. We're getting something wholly unique. and wholly different, with a supernatural spin, with a superhero spin, with a molecular spin, with a scientific spin. All of these aspects of these movies make them so different and unique and fun and entertaining and all fitting within the same universe. Absolutely. I mean, Marvel is hitting it out of the park because we're not just getting the same movies over and over again. We are getting similar films, but they are all inherently different. And now more so than ever, we are starting to see the ever-expanding universe that Marvel is about to create. Guardians of the Galaxy just opened one hell of a big door with their cosmic aspect. And really, they could very easily bridge Thor and Guardians movies and have them be either team-up movies or have them interact. Maybe have Thor pop up in a Guardians movie or vice versa. Have Star-Lord pop up on Asgard or something. There's a lot of possibilities right there. But on the flip side, you then have them introducing Doctor Strange, which is really going to open up the supernatural aspect, parallel universes and things like that. So with having something like the Inhumans possibly being an effect of what happens in Doctor Strange, which is, I think, is something very likely. I think the events of Doctor Strange are going to cause other aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be opened up and more characters to be introduced eventually. And I really do think that this is one of the most interesting prospects or projects that they have in their upcoming pipeline. We know that this is one that Feige wants to be made. We know that. He's repeatedly mentioned 3 properties. He has mentioned Black Panther, he has mentioned Doctor Strange, and he has mentioned Inhumans repeatedly over the years. These are properties we know that we're getting. We just don't know when. It was rumored for a while that the Inhumans would potentially be a TV series, and that is the wrong way to go. These characters, no, they need to be in a film. They need to have the budget to support them. TV, you can't do that. It's also why the failed Hulk TV series with Guillermo del Toro at Universal failed. They cannot financially viably create a character like the Hulk or the Inhumans or a lot of these characters on a TV budget. They can't do it unless they were bought by someone like HBO or FX even. And even FX, they managed to do really great things with smaller budgets. But I mean, HBO just kind of throws however much budget they need because they know they're going to make it back because it's quality storytelling. And I really do think that Marvel has a surefire hit on their hands if they go this route. Whether or not Vin Diesel's in the movie at all, I do like the aspect of him playing that character and the cross-pollination of his character and Groot being a voice-only character and then being a character that he physically portrays but cannot speak. I think, to me, that's really cool. And that would be a great challenge for someone like Vin Diesel. There's no confirmation on a director or even it being part of Phase 3, whether or not it's going to be part of Phase 4. We still have no idea. I'm going to go out on a limb, though, because we've now, as of 2017, we're going to be having 3 Marvel films a year. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that it's the November 2017 release. Because Vin Diesel did say, when he was talking about, he's like, yeah, you know, I'm talking about a couple of projects, but I'm also talking to them about a new IP that will probably be out in 2016, 2017. Now, that could have been premature of him to say, but seeing the upcoming slate of films and knowing that Marvel wants to differentiate themselves while also doing sequels, their plan is to do sequel, new property, sequel, new property, sequel, new property. That's going to be their timetable, at least for what they are hoping to be able to do. We know now that in 2017 we're getting a Guardians 2. So we've got their sequel, which means the other 2 properties in 2017 could potentially be new properties. We still don't know yet. Maybe only one of them will be, and another one will be either a spin-off or a sequel to an already existing film. Time will tell. It's still going to take a while for all this information to trickle out, but when we get more information about this, I'll definitely update you guys on here. But I got to tell you, this is one of the properties I'm most excited about, and I think this really has a great way of being introduced to a lot of people, and for them to still have that X-Men feel, but have it be completely different from X-Men and have it stand on its own. I really think they can do that. And also, Marvel has become a brand now, so a lot of people will go to see their films regardless of what the storyline really is about. I mean, that will be a big aspect of it, but they trust in Marvel now. Marvel has put out a lot of films now that have been revered as very, very good, if not great. And then we have the Avengers. I mean, they have such a good track record right now that I don't see them not taking a lot of chances and going maybe even further down the pantheon of unknown sources and really try to surprise everybody. There's a lot of possibilities that Marvel has, and I'm really excited to see them really trying to toy with them. But when we get more information about this topic, I'll definitely update you guys on here. And the last topic that I have to talk about today is something that was talked about at Comic-Con, but it didn't really garner enough real information about it, so I didn't feel the need to talk about it. We didn't have a lot to go over. But Sam Raimi was on hand at Comic-Con to talk about their adaptation of The Last of Us, which is a video game series that's on PlayStation 3. It's coming to PlayStation 4 as just a revamped version. They're just making the graphics look better. But the core storyline of that movie is a very, very good, very cinematic game, because you have the two main characters. You have Joel and you have Ellie, and they live in a world that 20 years ago there was a viral pandemic that caused, or a fungal pandemic that caused a lot of people to die. Like the majority of the population, I think it was 80 or 90% of all people on the planet Earth died. And they have not found an immunity to it, but people start to change and they start to turn not necessarily into zombies, but they're kind of like into monsters. You have to play the game in order to understand it, but it's a very good game. It's a survival game, so it's not a shoot 'em up. If you find bullets, your gun may have 5 bullets, and you have 7 guys to have to deal with. So you either have to try to sneak around them, or it's just a very, very well developed, very in-depth, character-driven game. And it was an immense pleasure to play a game like that. That's so integral and has so many layers to it. But Neil Druckmann, who was the game's creative director, is the one who was scripting the film. He's writing the screenplay for the film. So he's one of the best people to adapt this game, because he knows what aspects of the movie to keep, what aspects of the game that they can kind of discard. Because with a game, a lot of the time, yes, you're creating a larger narrative, but you're having to fit in a lot of other elements because it is a video game. And I think that there are certain aspects of the game that could be excised. There are certain parts that they don't just don't need to be in there. But he did an interview recently and talked about how the movie will be a direct adaptation of the game. They're not going to be just a movie set within the world. So Joel and Ellie are going to be the main characters of the movie. Certain parts will be different from the film. They said vastly different from the film, only due to the fact that they're going to have to cut out a lot of elements. So certain elements that could have been in the game because of a large build-up may now still be there, but the reasoning behind them being there may be very different. We still don't know. It's very out of context as to what he is exactly talking about, but he did say that creating a 2-hour movie out of a 15-hour narrative is very difficult, so you do have to cut out a lot of information. And a lot of that stuff, I think, will be cut out, like a lot. It's going to be fundamentally Ellie and Joel's story. We're going to see that from beginning to end. Whether or not we get elements of the game cut out that could be reintroduced in a sequel of sorts is another story. Because the one thing I find is that The Last of Us video game, we know they're developing a sequel for the video game, but whether or not they are able to take out certain bits of info and utilize them in a sequel and actually split the first game into 2 films. Not like a part 1 and part 2. I actually mean taking that core storyline, taking and finding out, like, spoiler for the game, Ellie is a character who is immune. She has an immunity to this virus. She was bitten several weeks ago by one of these creatures, and she did not turn. Most people turn within maybe a minute, and she still hasn't turned. So the whole point of the movie, or the whole point of the game, sorry, is Joel trying to take her to this research facility to try to figure out what is it about her blood that's got a cure in it, or that's immune to it, and possibly find a cure. Well, the world that they've created could potentially be set up so that in the first film you have this story of Joel and Ellie, and finding out at the end of the first movie that she actually is immune to this, and that they have to actually take her to this place, and then that could be the storyline of the second film. They could do that. It's feasible for them to do that. There's enough material there, and even not necessarily the material, but things that are hinted at in the video game that they could expand upon and really delve into that world, because it was a really cool world that they created. But as it stands right now, as far as I know, they are just developing it as one film. It's a shame to me personally, because the game is so in-depth and so well character-driven that there's a lot that they are going to have to lose. I am curious to see exactly what they do cut out and what they do keep in. But as it stands right now, Maisie Williams, who plays Arya Stark on Game of Thrones, is currently being eyed by Sam Raimi and the producers to star as Ellie in the film. We still don't have a Joel, but as far as I'm aware, they're not in talks, but they are looking at least the tops of the name, or the names on the top of the list are Hugh Jackman and Josh Brolin are the 2 names, as far as I'm aware, that they are looking at. Now, When looking at the character of Joel, my first instinct, I would say one person who would fit that role, not looks-wise, but just I think character-wise, Timothy Olyphant. I think Tim Olyphant could really delve into a character like that, especially with his work on Justified. For anyone who hasn't seen Justified, I just started getting into season 1, and already I'm hooked. This show is so well done, so well written, and I really do think that he could pull it off. But again, it's a tough question because who out there could fill this role? And I hope that they don't just go with an A-lister. I hope they just go with someone who is very talented, someone kind of out of left field that you go, you know what, that really works. That really fits. Like Paul Rudd for Ant-Man. No one saw that coming, but that fits. That really works because of his comedic sensibilities. We know that he has dramatic penchant, or a penchant for dramatic acting, I should say. But for the most part, he is a comedic actor, so it would be very interesting to see him take on this role. And whoever they get to star as Joel is really going to need to carry this film. Maisie Williams would be a great addition to this film. She kills it every week on Game of Thrones. For those of you who don't watch Game of Thrones, she is probably my favorite character, and I think a lot of people out there, they're her favorite character. Mine would actually be a tie between her and Tyrion, because Tyrion's just so much fun. He's just such a jackass, and it's just great, but he's a smart jackass, so it really works. But yeah, we don't have any release date announced. There's no kind of eye line for when this movie could come out. There's still no director announced. I would be hard pressed if Sam Raimi came on to direct the film. I would actually think that'd be pretty cool. Very cool visual style to what this cinematic game could really be. There's a lot of potential there. But when we get more information about this, I'll definitely update you guys on here. Well, that'll do it for us here on Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Go ahead and click that subscribe button down there in the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. And you can also find us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/movie news with Niklsun. And until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.